Hello, everyone. It is Daloon, and I am live for Buddy Check. Please excuse me. It was a day. I'm coming off of work. It's the ones during the week are a little rough for me, so I ask for your patience here as I gather myself. So before we start, where is it? Okay, Buddy Check. For Buddy Check, we always start with the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. All right, let's get started. I know most of you are probably going to catch this on the next one or when I edit this. Okay. So I'll light another one in a minute. Today's date is April 22nd, 2025. Happy Easter to those who have celebrated. If you celebrated, my condolences for the loss of the Pope. And today's episode is titled "There's No Shame with PTSD," and there's a reason why I chose that title. But before I get into that, there is something that I want to share with everyone. Give me one moment. When this doesn't happen on the weekend, I am so unprepared. Okay. If you are feeling depressed, in crisis, know there's always help for you. You could call the Veterans Crisis Line or the Military Crisis Line. And you simply call them by 1-800-273-8255 and press 1. I'm going to say that again. That number is 1-800-273-8255 and press 1. You are special. We want you around, and we can't have you go anywhere. So if you need assistance, and that's the number to call. So let's get into this topic. Oh, I have a disclaimer as well. I am not a medical professional, so I am just a veteran talking to other veterans and seeing if I could help, and if we could just help one veteran at a time. Oh, it's springtime here in New York. The heat kicked up. Mother Nature turned up the heat, and she finally gave a breeze. So that's what the is for. So I chose this topic because 9 times out of 10, PTSD is the reason why we lose 22 veterans a day, at least. So I'm coming from an angle from someone who, for years, once my PTSD kicked in, had to fight with this particular concept. There is no shame if you suffer from PTSD. You just have to acknowledge it, recognize it, and know to ask for help. Help comes in the form of therapy. It comes in the form of calling a hotline. COVID was a pain in our butts, but we had a couple of things that came out of that whole experience. We had therapy online and therapy by phone. Although the hotline has been around for years before, I know this personally, but you could get help. There's help there in some form or another. How you get the help, I can't tell you per your experience. But no, you could either speak to your local clergyman if you're a religious person. Um, Clergymen could be your priest, your deacon, your pastor, your high priest or high priestess. They're usually trained to deal and direct you in the right um, direction on that. You could also go to therapy. The VA does offer veteran services. Um, you could talk to a good friend, good family member, or you could develop a relationship with another buddy to help you through whatever you're going through. If it's an episode, if it's a challenging time, um, but I'll get back to that. So, I always say when dealing with PTSD and those with PTSD, it's important to understand that you're not alone. So, I like to throw some statistics at you on this topic. Um, when it comes down to it, is broken down, and I got this from a website called Golden Steps ABA. So, and this is based on numbers in the U.S. So within the U.S., you have 30.2% people suffer from mild cases of PTSD. I'm going to get more into detail about that. Women who have PTSD is about 11%, 1 in 9. Women who have PTSD from SA in the military is 23%. Men, now this men who have PTSD from SA in the military is 38%. I didn't take this poll. These are the numbers that I was provided. Americans, everyday Americans who has PTSD due to trauma, any type of trauma, and anything can be categorized as trauma, is 70%. Severe cases are 36.6%. Moderate cases are 33.1%. From the ages between 45 to 59 years old is 5.3%. I think that's a higher number. It's just, I don't think people are just seeking help to help stress how much attention needs to be brought to this. But that's my opinion. Females from the age 13 to the age 18 falls under 8%. And people 60 years or older is 1%. Again, I think it's because people don't report it. All right, now we got the statistics out of the way. Now let's have our conversation. PTSD is something that is post-traumatic syndrome disorder. It's something that most people have a bad stigma stuck to it, and it's unfair. PTSD becomes an issue when it is untreated, unrecognized, and unaccounted for. Everybody thinks when you say PTSD, especially if you say PTSD and you're someone from the military, they think it's due to some sort of battle scar. Most of the time it is, but not all the time. You have other people who have other trauma where they suffer from this, as well as anyone could suffer from PTSD. It just has to be a traumatic event. Someone could suffer from PTSD from watching someone get hit by a car, by seeing someone get robbed, by being robbed, by doing something as trivial as touching I say hot, but unless you work in electricity, you don't understand, but something where they get electrocuted and they walk away. It causes you to change your behavior to be protective, which is a very smart thing. But sometimes just acting in that form where you're trying to protect yourself is not enough. So, who can suffer from PTSD? Anyone, everyone. I could almost guarantee anyone past, and I'm hoping once you starts going out into the world, the moment you step out into the world, anything could traumatize you, and there's no age limit. Uh, a child who let's use some examples. A child, a toddler, might be part of an accident, walks away unscathed, but it's the most scariest thing in their life. Every time that child from that point on sees a car that's similar to the car they got into an accident in, or they get into the car seat, they start crying hysterically. Um, and it's because they're scared. They're suffering from the trauma. Now, sometimes children is a prime example because they tend to bounce back better. Unfortunately, as you get older in life, it becomes a little bit more traumatic. It sticks with you more. You have the thought process where you could dwell on it a little bit more. You're not easily distracted. You don't have the squirrel syndrome, where you're easily distracted. You're more hype. You become hyper focused. We'll go back to that later on in the discussion. It can be anything that's traumatic, that's frightening. It could happen to anyone at any age, with any background. It doesn't matter your educational background. No one is too smart to suffer from it. You're human. It's a human thing. And there are some benefits to it, but unfortunately, it could also, if you allow it to be crippling. And this is why I want to have this discussion. So it's not a crippling effect for you. It's not crippling. It's not something to be ashamed of. Although there are those who don't understand. PTSD can happen with any ethnicity. It doesn't matter if you're Black, white, Hispanic, Chinese. It doesn't matter your religion. Although those who tend to be a little bit more religious, either if you, depending on how devout you are, you either you could use your religion to help you coast through it and get through it, or you could be too afraid to speak to someone. It's not limited to veterans, but I'm focusing on veterans today. I'm going to at the end of this, I'm going to hopefully remember to give that hotline again. But it is okay to ask for help. It is okay to call a hotline, go to therapy, talk to someone, share your feelings. Granted, and it's a little bit harder if you're a veteran and the only people you think will understand is your buddy. The ones that were with you in the fire or those who served, even if they weren't in the fire with you. And that's not true. Not everybody do understand. I mean, for the longest time, when I got hit with it, because it was a delayed effect with me, I was afraid to tell people. And this is why I say there is no shame. There is no shame in suffering to the point where you hold it inside. It's important to ask for help. It's important to acknowledge buddy check. If you don't want to reach out to your buddies, although they'll know something's wrong with you, I'll tell you that. I've been blessed with some good buddies in my life. And even when I didn't know I needed help, they were able to help me. So, that being said, you have to take the first step. And believe it or not, the first step is not asking for help. Because once you pass the first step, then it's easier to ask for help. And the first step is to acknowledge and understand there's no shame. There is no shame. Granted, you can't tell everybody. I found that out the hard way. You can't tell everybody. I don't care at this point. That's why I don't mind sharing it on this platform. And I accept it. And if you don't understand it, you'll stay away from me. Don't come with me to me with sympathy because you'll annoy me. This is where I am in my healing process. But for those that need that extra healing and you're not at that point to even admit that you're suffering from it, you have to understand there's no shame. That's the first admittance. Once you admit to yourself, you don't have to say it out loud. You don't have to get on the roof and yell it at somebody. If that's what helps and it helps you come to terms, by all means. But you have to tell yourself there's no shame in that. There's no shame in suffering from PTSD. Everybody suffers from it. I live in New York City, and I can't tell who suffers from it. Well, outside of homeless people. But I can't tell who suffers from PTSD just by walking by you in the street. It's not a label you wear. Unfortunately, it's a hurt that you hold inside. And we're like balloons. You could hold that air inside of you, but for so long, and eventually you're going to pop. And we don't want you to pop. We want you to be part of our society. We want you to be part of the world in a healthy, physically and mentally, in a healthy place. So, once you have decided that you are not ashamed to ask for help, and you understand it's not a shame, you could go ahead, pick up that phone, that cell phone, and call 1-800-273-8255 and then press 1. That's very helpful. Another thing about PTSD, and I'm speaking about it as a veteran. It doesn't happen immediately. Sometimes you could ETS, start a whole new life, think that everything is behind you, and something happens in your life. Anything, it's called a trigger. Something could happen to trigger you and cause those awful thoughts, those awful memories, those helpless feelings to come about. So you have to understand when it happens. You may not understand exactly, and this is a short one. Also, I'm tired, and aches and pains of growing is really painting on me, but this is very important, and I wanted to discuss this with you. Um, you may not understand what's going on, and sometimes you may need to stop and take a moment. Hence the buddy check. Because although you may be the buddy that someone who is suffering is checking in with you, but if you go through it, they might be the one to detect it and tell you, hey, I think you need to talk. I think you need some help. Buddy checks. Buddies, we got each other's back. So always remember this. As you go through this month, if you are one who is suffering from PTSD, I want to let you know you're not alone. There's help out there for you. And there's no shame. There's a lot of people who are going through it. There's a reason why there's a saying, be kind to one another, because you just don't know what that next person is going through. I encourage you to like this video. I encourage you to subscribe for when I have my next buddy check, which will be May 22nd. And let me see what day that falls on. That's a Thursday. So hopefully I won't be as tired as I am right now, and you will get my full devoted attention. And just think about, seek out, accept your assignment for the next month is to accept there's no shame in suffering from PTSD or having symptoms of PTSD, and know that there's people you could talk to. Also know and be aware of people who you talk to, not to trigger them, and try to become aware of what triggers you. So like this, subscribe if you want to know whenever I post another video or go live again, and share this video with someone who you think might benefit from it. Again, if you feel that you need to reach out and you need help, you could always reach out to the Veterans Crisis Line, the Military Crisis Line as well, and their number is 1-800-273-8255, and then you hit 1. And since this topic was such a heavy topic, and hopefully I'll be able to hit a more light-hearted topic next month, we're going to end out with the Serenity Prayer. So, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Have a beautiful day, beautiful rest of the week, and give yourself a hug and know you are appreciated.